Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This is week 3 of our trainings, or week 2, sorry, of our trainings, and I am going to pass it over to Alex to get started.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Like Brenda said, this is week 2 of P2P training. This whole week, we have been concentrating on digging a little deeper into shopping, in other words, submitting requisitions and ultimately getting to a purchase order. So again, that's what we're going to be doing today in this training. Let's see if anybody has any questions. We have all the microphones muted, but if you have questions, feel free to drop your question in the chat. And we have some
In
other folks
the,
from contracts.
sorry, in the Q&A, we have the Q&A.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A. We have some other folks from contracts and procurement, and I believe accounts payable, here to help back me up and answer your questions in the Q&A. So with that being said, my name is Alex Arias. I'm a buyer here in contracts and procurement. And we are actually going to begin with Lori Arthur, and she is going to be going over, some helpful guidelines and places that you guys can reference when doing your IT purchasing. Again, if there are any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we can help answer those questions further. With that, please take it over, Lori.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat links to everything that I'm about to show you so that you know where to find that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So we have updated the IT purchasing website. So we have more information here about how to do this process now that we have P2P. And we also have created, there it is, we've created a whole decision tree for you to kind of help it so that it gets a little complex which ones that you go straight into P2P for and which ones are going into the IT purchasing process directly. So you simply answer each question. So are you using state funds? Is it a $0 purchase or a $0 request for application LTI? And if you say something like yes here, it's going to say, hey, you're going to have to go through the IT purchase authorization request process for that type of request. And you can go back if you want to and change your answers. And for something like a software, you're going to go through P2P for that. And you may be asked to submit things later through the IT purchase authorization process, but generally something for like software, you're always going through P2P. So we have created this to make it a little bit easier. We also have a link here to the IT purchasing process and of course P2P. And we have updated our user guides because we did make some modifications to the IT purchase authorization request. So you may see some different options on here now. For example, it's going to ask you what funding source are you using? And depending on what options you choose and which funding source you're choosing, the options on the form will change as well, because there are only certain things that are available for you if you say you're using state funds, for example. So again, you're still going to go through, it's going to prompt you for everything that you need, but we have put the screenshots are updated so that anything that it does pop up, we let you know what are you supposed to do when this particular option comes up on the screen. So, but in general, the process in terms of doing a purchase authorization is the same. If you get to the point where you need to submit this request form, it's essentially the same. There's just a few additional steps to it. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible. And of course, if you have questions, you can always reach out to our IT purchasing team and we can answer those questions for you.
Well, thank you, Lori. We will probably see if there are any questions in the Q&A. But yeah, thanks for that. Again, one of the main points of P2P is to take a lot of processes that were happening on their own and now just bring them into P2P, so they're all housed within the same platform. So, I know that before ServiceNow was the main place to go get all of your IT authorizations. But now in P2P, we're trying to make that the main place for submitting your requisitions and getting that IT authorization all within one place. Like Lori mentioned, there still may be some ServiceNow work that needs to be done, but it's on a more precise basis now instead of like an entire separate form that's very long. So now, we're in P2P. Okay, thank you, Lori. With that being said, I can begin with our training for today. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. However, we found that it's much more helpful if I'm sharing my screen and sort of demoing the items that we want to cover today. So with that, everybody should be live in P2P now, meaning everybody should be able to log into P2P. And, I hope everybody has been exploring the new platform within the last couple of weeks that we went live. So let me share my screen and we will get started. Okay, so just a couple of things. If you haven't already logged into P2P before, the easiest and most direct way to get into P2P is through your Titan Online portal. There is a section called Titan Online, and there's a little tile that says CSU by P2P. If you click that tile, it will open a new window, a new tab in your browser, and you will be looking at the production site for P2P. So just another quick little thing I want to cover. The shopping homepage is the default homepage for P2P. And when you first log in, this is always going to be the homepage unless you change that yourself at a later time. In P2P, you can basically make any page the homepage for your profile. But for right now, I think most of us are going to be seeing this screen that I'm currently sharing. And yeah, I'll take it from there. So I want to take a couple of minutes just going over suppliers. Suppliers are very important to continuing business on Cal State Fullerton's campus. And I want to make sure that we sort of go over that before we continue with this training. So in the old system, CFS, suppliers, you were able to submit a requisition without having your supplier onboarded first. That has changed in this new CSU by P2P system. So now you need to ensure that your suppliers have been fully approved in the system, and not only fully approved, but also approved for our business unit, which is FLXMP. So what I want to show first is searching for a supplier. That's always going to be your first step when beginning a purchase requisition in P2P. So really quick, under quick links on the shopping homepage, there is a button called Search for a Supplier. Or there is another way where over on the left-hand side on the flyout, which is the main navigation tool for P2P, you can hover over suppliers. You can go to manage suppliers and search for a supplier. So those two buttons are the same ones, just whatever your preference is of getting to that screen, you have two options there. I like to use the quick links because it's more direct. Okay, so what you always want to do before you start your requisition is you want to search for your supplier. You want to see what registration status they're in. In order to do that, you want to switch this filter at the top that says status. It defaults to active for shopping, but we want to change that to all. So I'll change it to all, I'll hit apply. And now I have a list of suppliers that have a range of different registration statuses. So some are approved, some are in progress, some have been invited. If you want to learn a little bit more about what the registration status means, there is this red circle with a question mark inside of it that has the definitions of the registration statuses. Just to cover a couple of them, approved means the registration has been approved and the supplier is available for use. Okay, so that means the supplier received the invitation, they opened the invitation, created their profile, and the chancellor's office has approved them in the system. In progress means the supplier has created an account and possibly started completing the registration. Or the supplier has submitted registration, but it has been returned to them for correction. So in progress really just means some information has been provided, but it's not fully finalized yet. So there's still a little bit work to do for the supplier. Invited. So that is the first status that usually pops up once we send the invitation to the supplier. That means that they should have received an email from a noreply@jagger.com email address, and they've been tasked basically to create their profile and go through the whole process to get them onboarded. So what I like to show next is if you find a supplier and their registration status is listed as approved, there is one more step that you have to take to really see if the supplier can be used for Cal State Fullerton. So let's just take this supplier here, for example, 10,000 degrees. I can see that their registration status says approved, but what is that extra step I need to take? You would go into the company name by clicking the name there. Then you get to this page that says Supplier 360. The Supplier 360 has a lot of helpful quick information like the supplier number, their legal name, a DBA if that's applicable to that particular supplier, if they are in network, active for shopping, enabled for contracts, and if they are a catalog or non-catalog supplier. That's all really great information, but one of the most important pieces of information in this Supplier 360 page is here, active business units. So that last piece of information that you need to know before you can create a requisition and submit it for this particular supplier is by clicking this hyperlink that says 3 values. It could say any number of values, but we want to open that up. And the business unit we are looking for is FLXMP. That is the stateside business unit for Cal State Fullerton. So in this case, 10,000 degrees is not active for shopping for FLXMP. All right, so that requires a form to extend the supplier to our business unit. And I can show you where to get that form in a couple of minutes. I just want to finish covering what we can find on the search for a supplier page. So let me go back and let me find a supplier that I do know we have an active business unit for. So maybe I want to do some business with 1220. There's 1220 Inc. They are approved, but can Cal State Fullerton do business with them? Okay, this one says there are 7 active business units. So you would open that up. There we go. FLXMP is active for Cal State Fullerton. So ultimately, that is the way you will be able to tell if a supplier is available for Cal State Fullerton for shopping. The other option too that could pop up here is if you search your supplier, and this is a supplier that I'm just making up off the top of my head, maybe you want to buy something from Alex's company and there are no results. So that tells us that the supplier is not in the system at all. There is no registration status. An invitation has never been sent to that supplier. So that involves another form, which is requesting a supplier. So I've already mentioned a couple of forms now, and that is the supplier extension form and the request a new supplier form. So let me walk you guys through those 2 forms, and I'll show you where to get there. So if you click on the home button, you end up on the shopping homepage again. So if you want to extend a new supplier or extend an approved supplier to our business unit, you would scroll down on the shopping homepage. Under miscellaneous, it has this form on the photo. You would click that tile, and there's a form in here called supplier extension or reinvite. So if you open that up, it's going to give you a set of instructions. We recommend reading the instructions on any type of form, whether it's just a generic request form like these for suppliers or shopping forms. The instructions are there to guide you and there to let you know if you're in the right place or if you need to search for a different type of form. So after you've read the instructions, you want to hit the next button. And here it's going to start asking you, what are you requesting? If you want to extend a supplier, you would be selecting extend an existing CSU BY supplier to a new campus. The rest of the questions are pretty straightforward. What campus are you requesting it for? We are at Cal State Fullerton, so you will select Fullerton. Which Fullerton business unit needs to use this extended supplier? This is an important note really quick. Right now, we are only active for FLXMP. We are not active for shopping for FLXPF, which is the Philanthropic Foundation business unit. So for any supplier requests or supplier extensions, you will only need to select FLXMP. If you select FLXPF, your request will be denied because we are not active for shopping in that business unit yet. That is coming within the next few months, we hope, so that when Philanthropic Foundation does become active, we can begin to request suppliers for that business unit. So for now, you just want to do FLXMP. Do you need to use the supplier for a PO or invoice payment within 1 to 2 business days? We hope that most of the time you say no, but we do understand that sometimes things need to be expedited, and so you do have the option to select yes. Supplier, legal company name, you would fill out which supplier you are trying to extend to. So earlier in that example I was giving, it was 10,000 degrees. So you would just type their name in and then CSU BY supplier number. So I always recommend having a second window open when you're doing this form. So that way you can go into their profile and actually get the number and copy it and paste it directly in there. So that's just a little trick I like to use when I'm doing this form. Select the type of products and or services the supplier will provide. This is a select all that apply. So just try to choose the most appropriate option. And then after that, you would hit next. And then you can hit the submit button. So once you hit submit for a supplier extension, essentially what that does is it sends a notice to the internal supplier management team, which is contracts and procurement. We will review your requests. Most of the time we are approving these. I think we're approving them, I don't know, like 99% of the time. So we would approve it, then it goes to the chancellor's office, and then the chancellor's office does the back end work of activating a supplier for our business unit. So requesting an extension for a supplier is a pretty quick process. I think it takes the chancellor's office between like 1 to 2 days to activate that supplier for our business unit. The other form, on the other hand, is the requesting a new supplier. So that was the example I gave of Alex's company. We saw that there were no results. The supplier doesn't exist. So we need to actually send them a brand new invitation to get them onboarded. So again, if you click home and you're on the shopping homepage, under quick links, there is a button that says request a new supplier. So if you go into request a new supplier, and I'm not going to fill this form out because it does begin after I click the submit button, but essentially I would put in the supplier name, hit submit, and then there's a list of questions that you need to answer pertaining to that particular supplier. It's mostly the same questions as the extension form, such as what campus, what business unit, what types of services. Are they remote services? Are they for tangible goods? Are they on-prem services? That type of thing. And then finally, it asks you for an email address at that supplier so that the invitation can be emailed to them. Really quick, a very important note when we're sending out these requests to a new supplier, The email address needs to be a very specific address with that supplier that has the ability to create their profile. Um, so usually for smaller companies or individuals, that's easy to identify. However, for larger companies where they have a sales department, but they also have a finance department, and all the other departments that make up a company, it's very important to ask the supplier who in their company can create the profile, because once the invitation is sent out, it cannot be forwarded to another person within their organization. If you do have to resend an invitation to a different email address, you have to resubmit this form. So just keep that in mind when you're putting in the email address. Let's see. So that was about it. That was it for suppliers. Again, make sure you are searching for your supplier, checking their registration status, and checking the active business units for that supplier. In the active business units, you want to search to see if FLXMP is active for that particular supplier. Let's see. Before I move on to the next module in the training, are there any questions that I should bring up, Lauren or KJ? Was there anything in the Q&A?
No, I think we got the questions answered, but there was one person who said they couldn't find it in their portal.
Okay.
Did you show
Yeah,
that?
we have experienced people not being able to locate it in their portal. What we found is that if you clear your cookies and your cache, it will show up most likely. Because this tile is new on the portal, sometimes it doesn't update unless you clear your browser. So try clearing your browser first. If that doesn't work, Lauren or KJ, can you guys drop in the DL email address so that they can reach out to us and we
Sure.
can further assist in getting access to the system? All right, cool. So the next topic is essentially what we're going to do is we are going to start with creating a cart, choosing a shopping form, filling out the questions on the shopping form, and in particular, this shopping form is going to cover blanket orders. So I'm essentially going to be creating a blanket order in the system. I won't be submitting it all the way through into the workflow, but I will get pretty much at the last step before that happens. So again, if there's anything that you guys want to ask, the Q&A is open, so fire away with your questions, please. All right, so if you want to get started on a purchase in P2P using a shopping form, again, search your supplier first. That's very important. If they're in there, great. If they're not, we need to request them. Let's just say I already did that. I know which supplier I'm using. I know that they're active for FLXMP. So what are the next steps? On the shopping homepage, you will go over to the flyout once again. There is an icon that looks like a shopping cart. You will go to My Carts and View Carts. Again, if you can't remember those steps where you're using the flyout, View Carts is also under Quick Links. So please always keep that in mind. Quick Links is a very great tool so that you just have to click one button instead of remembering the steps to get to it a different way. So I'll click the Quick Links View Cart. Okay, so this brings you into your cart management. What cart management does is it allows you to have multiple draft carts at once. So draft carts are essentially requisitions and carts that you have not submitted into the workflow. I think this is very helpful for people that maybe juggle multiple projects at once and you want to get started on a cart, but you are not yet ready to submit it into the workflow because maybe you're waiting on some further details from your department. So I actually don't have any active carts or even draft carts, so my cart management says no carts found. So your next step would be create cart, which is this button in the top right-hand corner. So create cart. One of the first steps is cart name. It does give you this generic number here. However, I don't think it's helpful to anyone. It's just a date, your user number. It's hard to keep track of that. So what I always recommend is renaming your cart to something that is helpful when you're trying to track down your orders. So I'm just going to say P2P week 2 demo. If this was a real order, I'd probably name it, the name of the event that I'm doing, or maybe the project name that I'm working on, whatever helps you track things. So the next step is deliver to address, deliver to location. So deliver to location is sort of a newer concept in CSU by P2P. So there is a ship to location and there is a deliver to location. The distinction is a ship to location is the main shipping and receiving area. So for our campus, it's the 800 North State College Boulevard address, shipping and receiving. The deliver to location is a more detailed location, such as the office number and the building. So it is a requirement. Deliver to location is very helpful for tangible goods. When somebody's actually bringing you a package and it's getting delivered, you want to specify where that package should be delivered. It's still required even if you are paying for services where, maybe they're done remotely or, they're just at different locations on campus. We still recommend that you put down either like your front desk area or your office number. So for example, I work in College Park on the 3rd floor, so I will put College Park floor CP0300, and that is our front desk area.
Hey, Alex.
So after you do that, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Someone asked if you would talk about Amazon. I don't know if you were going to go straight into the form or if you want to just maybe mention the punch outs for you.
Sure, I can
Yeah,
mention that. I can mention that in the next page. So
cool. Okay.
so from here, after you do those 2 fields, it says your shopping cart is empty. Click here to start shopping. So you're going to click that. All right. So these 6 tiles here, office, IT, lab, facilities, hospitality, and general, these are your shopping tiles. So within here, you have your shopping forms and your punch outs. So punch outs are Amazon, Staples, CDW, Granger, those types of vendors that have their websites linked to a contract for the CSU, but also linked to P2P so that we can shop with them directly through here. So somebody asked for Staples earlier. Staples lives under the general tile. So if you open up the general tile, there's Amazon Business. So the way these punch outs work is if you click the tile, it will open a session on Amazon's website. And it's just loading here. And so there you are. You are now shopping on Amazon Business Prime. This works, just like the regular Amazon website. So you can either search for your items, you can go into, different departments that you want to shop in, like electronics, books, school supplies, that kind of stuff. So essentially what happens in these punch outs is when you're adding items to your cart, it's saving in your shopping cart up here. And then there's a button that says proceed to checkout or return to P2P, depending on how the Amazon or Staples or whatever business has designed their user interface. It'll say something different, but essentially what it does is it takes your order and it takes you back into P2P and it fills out your requisition and your cart in P2P for you. And then you can submit your order in P2P. So essentially you're just adding stuff in the cart in Amazon, but you're checking out in P2P. And so the key difference now is that between the marketplace and P2P is that in the marketplace, everybody was used to using your P card because they would ask for P card information. But in P2P, it's actually chart field based. So instead of typing in a credit card number, you would be typing in your chart field numbers. those chart fields allow us to basically skip reconciliation because there's no P card involved. So it's actually saving you a little bit of time in the future with those P card reconciliations. Another nice thing is that with these punch outs, it's routed to DOAs for their fiscal approval. And if you purchase any kind of items that are maybe labeled as a higher risk or a higher dollar item, it'll route automatically to the compliance reviewers. So, for example, if I was on Amazon and I'm trying to buy some new computer monitors for my department, that would flag IT to review the Amazon purchase for those new monitors because they are IT assets. So that's great. We are getting all of those compliance in here. We're catching it up front before the purchase is fully completed. So in a nutshell, that is how the punch outs work. If that's okay, I'll move on to actually using a different type of shopping form, which is the, I'll use the goods and services request form. But before I do, is that okay, Lauren? Were there any follow-up questions or anything?
Yeah, there was one question. How do you go back to modify your punch out cart? I
Yeah,
think they
so
mean, yeah, go ahead. You got it.
yeah, so if you need to modify your punch out cart, you can actually, once it's in your cart, there's a button that you can select to go back into the punch out, and you can update items there. Um, I won't do it because if I do, then it marks it as like a purchase on my Amazon account, and then I have to go back and cancel the order in Amazon. But I'll mention this a couple of times throughout the training. If you are having some technical difficulties, or if you just want some more guidance, we are offering one-on-one trainings, either for 30 minutes or 1 hour duration. So you can sign up for those one-on-one trainings with somebody from procurement, and we can help you with submitting any punch out orders or editing any orders that you may have started. So was that it?
Yeah, and then one other thing, we have chat active and we also have the Q&A, but we're just using the chat to like post information to you guys. If you guys have questions, please post them to the Q&A. That way we can address them and organize them and make sure that everyone else will be able to see the answers as well. I think that's it
Yeah.
though.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to be using the goods and services request form to get started with this requisition. So I will select the goods and services request form. All right. So really quick, every single form has an instructions page at the very beginning. We are highly, highly recommending that everybody read the instruction pages before, as you're getting used to the system. We're all brand new. This is only the end of week 2. So what the instructions tell you is what each form is meant for and what the form is not meant for. So in the beginning, as we're getting used to submitting our requests, it's there to guide you and let you know if you are in the right place or not. So for this goods and services request form, we can see that it says use the form to request goods and or services that are not available via catalog through the search bar. So the goods and services form is meant for goods, services, classroom equipment, furniture, marketing, transportation charters, legal services, drones, and vehicles. And then the second section of the instructions is what the form is not meant for. So for example, if I was going to purchase an IT software, or if I'm renewing a software that I purchase every year, it does say here that this form should not be used for IT hardware or IT software. See the IT hardware or software request form. So again, the instructions are there to guide you, but if you are still struggling to sort of understand which form is meant for what, again, those one-on-one trainings can be utilized to explain a little further about each form. Okay, so you would hit the next button, And this is an important step, suppliers. So when we began the call, we mentioned that your supplier must be approved for FLXMP before you submit a requisition. So that is this stage here. I need to identify my supplier, and it needs to be a supplier that's approved for our campus. So let's see, again, maybe I could do, maybe let's do 1220 because I kind of used them earlier as an example. So there you go, 1220. They are active for FLXMP, and they have been selected as my supplier. So next. All right, the next page on the goods and services request form is the general information page. So essentially this page is asking me what type of purchase are you requesting? So I will go here. Let's see, I am going to set this up as a, I'll do a commodity blanket order. So I'm gonna select goods. Is this a blanket order? So yes, so there are two ways to identify if something is a blanket purchase order. The first way is by selecting this bubble here on the goods and services form. The second way to do that is on the requisition itself. There's a checkbox that says blanket order. I'll show that once we get to that step, which is coming up here shortly. So yes, this is a blanket order. Is a request for a renewal of a previous purchase. If you say yes, it asks you what is the PO number of that previous purchase. If you don't remember it, that's fine. You can select no. This question is also not a required question for you to answer. The way you know if it's a requirement are these little stars at the end of each sentence. So on any form in P2P, if there's no star at the end and you are unsure how to answer that question, feel free to skip over it. Does the request include performance terms? So essentially that means start date and end date. For blanket purchase orders, the majority of the campus submits blanket purchase orders for one fiscal year. So that's July 1st to June 30th. So I will select yes. Performance start date will be July 1st to June 30th. And those will be my performance start and end date. And then this last question, it defaults to no. We are recommending everybody to leave that question alone. Leave it as no for sole brand and sole source. If this purchase qualifies for a sole brand or sole source, a procurement professional will reach out to you and let you know, if we should be using the sole brand and sole source justifications. Okay, so that is how you identify a blanket purchase order on the goods and services form. If you hit next, then you are, this next section is basically just provide the details or justification of the request. This would be in your own words. Try to be descriptive. Why are we hiring this person? Why are we paying this vendor? Or what services do they provide? What commodities are we buying from them? So just try to be descriptive in those details. Once you fill that out, you can hit next. And then you are on the cost details. So the cost details are the final section on every single form. And so essentially you're just saying, how much are you going to pay this vendor? This first question, do you have documentation to attached? If you say yes, it asks you to attach all required documentation as internal attachments on the requisition. So that's a very important note. Attachments don't go on the forms like we're currently viewing. Attachments come on the requisition, which is the next page. And I'll show you how to attach something when we get there. Okay, cost details, unit price. So this is a blanket order. Essentially with blanket orders, it just means that you are allocating funds for a given period of time so that you can purchase items or services from that supplier throughout the year or throughout that range of time. So what we are recommending, and I think this is a really important part of setting up blanket purchase orders, is try to forecast a little bit um, how much you spend on your blanket purchase orders each year. A lot of blanket orders are, renewals year to year, and so what we find is sometimes departments submit a blanket purchase order for, a lower dollar amount than they typically spend, and then that's when we have to go back and create change requests, increase the POs, and do that kind of legwork. And so what we're asking is that if you could forecast maybe the last 3 years or 5 years, how much have you spent with the supplier, you can have a better starting point and avoid doing those change requests later. Um, so for this example, I'm just going to say $15,000. Maybe I did that forecast, and usually that's around the dollar amount that we spend each year with that supplier. So for all blanket orders, you want to make the quantity one and the unit of measure locked. So that allows for cleaner invoicing and vouchering against blanket purchase orders. And so we want to keep it as one lot. On the other hand, if you are doing sort of like those one-off purchases for tangible goods, maybe you're ordering, 10 computer monitors or 5 new office chairs, then you could select, the quantity, and then the unit of measure would be each. But for this example, we're talking about blanket orders, so it should always be one lot. And then in the product description, again, please be descriptive. What is this blanket order for? Is it a commodity blanket for some goods? What types of goods would they be? Or is it for services, and what services would the supplier be providing? In this case, I'm just going to type in blanket order just to keep it brief. And then finally, you have your commodity code. So there are 2 instances in P2P where your commodity code does not automatically populate. And that is on this form in the goods and services request form when you select goods other or services other under general information. Essentially, you're telling it it's it's a commodity code that you have to tell it later. Um, if you're not using goods other or services other in those details, uh, the commodity code will automatically be populated for you. And essentially, the rule of thumb on campus now for P2P is to leave your commodity codes alone. So the system does a very good job of recognizing which commodity code should be assigned to the requisition. So for example, on this form, this is where you would purchase furniture as well. So under general information, if I selected furniture, the commodity code would automatically be populated for me as furniture. So again, if you see a commodity code already on your form, it's best to just leave it alone. The form does a very good job of knowing which commodity code should be assigned. But in this case, I selected goods other at the very beginning, so I have to put in my commodity code. So if I hit the edit button, I get a list of all the commodity codes. If you are unsure which commodity code you should be using, try to select the most appropriate commodity code. So I said that I was going to do an example of a commodity blanket order. So I could go into supplies, or I could go into equipment, just depending on what type of purchase you're making. You want to try to select the most appropriate commodity code in these cases. So I'm actually just going to select general supplies, and I'll hit save. Okay. See, so once you have your commodity code selected, I will hit next. And then you end up on this review and submit page for the form. So essentially, it's just telling you, here's the supplier you chose. You've filled out all the form fields correctly. There's no information missing, so you can proceed. So this add and go to cart button, it actually adds the line to your shopping cart, and it takes you into your requisition. So I will hit add and go to cart. And it gives you one more summary page, essentially. Oh, wow. Sorry about that. Let me see. Did I type $150,000? Oh, I guess I did. Sorry, one too many zeros.
Hey Alex, just a note,
Yeah,
when you get to the point, can you talk about like shoppers versus requesters and assigning carts?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Someone asked about that.
Yeah. Okay. So I ended up on my requisition page. So on the requisition page, um, this is like pretty much the last step that you have before you submit your requisition into the workflow. So what the workflow means is it goes to your DOA for their approval. Then it goes to any compliance approvals. So that's IT, facilities, does furniture approvals, that kind of stuff. And then after that, it reaches procurement. So on this page, just to answer that question that was just asked, if you are a shopper, you can get as far as this page. You can continue to add information like the chart fields, the ship to and bill to addresses, the deliver to addresses. The only difference is as a shopper, you will not be able to select the submit request button. Um, so shoppers, what you would do at this point is you would click assign cart. In the assign cart, uh, you would select this search button and you would search for a requester. So shoppers, you are not assigning your cart to an approver. You are assigning your cart to a requester in your department. So that's an important note. So if you are in there searching for your approver's name and they're not coming up, it's because your approver is not a requester. So it's best to try to identify those individuals in your departments so that you are aware of who plays what role in P2P. So that is for shoppers. If you have the requester role, you can actually do everything I just did plus hit the submit request button. So that is a difference. It's kind of like a hierarchy. So shoppers can only get so far until they have to assign the cart to a requester. Requesters can do more in the shopping cart and actually submit the requisition into the workflow. So I hope that sort of clarifies the difference between a shopper and a requester. Okay. As you can see on my requisition, I have some issues I need to fix. It's saying I need a shipping address, a billing address, a business unit fund, and department ID. So how do you do that? You can either click these little hyperlinks and it takes you into the section that needs fixing. So here's ship to. There are two ship tos. Again, there is a main shipping and receiving warehouse on campus. For those few individuals that do orders for Zizix Desert Studies, that is also a ship to. So depending on what department you're in, most of the campus is going to shipping and receiving. So I'm just going to select that for my ship to. Bill to, there is only one bill to address. So that makes the decision easy. There's only one to pick from. All right, so now you can see my issues went from 5 issues now down to 3. So I still need to put in
Alex,
my chart fields. Yeah.
can you also show like some folks their deliver to locations still needs to be updated because of that feature needs an update?
Oh
Can you
yeah,
just show them
yeah,
the attention line where they could put their
for sure. Yeah.
actual?
Yeah, so we are aware that some delivered to locations are not populated in P2P. So what we are recommending is if your location is not populated, you still have to pick a location. It's a required field. So what we recommend is maybe trying to find a department that's near you that you could select. But just to take it a little step further, you can actually hit this pencil here and the attention line where your name gets populated, that's where you can put in a little more specific detail about your location. So if your location is missing, That's where you can put in maybe like your specific office number or something like that. Um, so feel free to type in here. I'm not sure how many characters you're limited to, but you are able to control that field and type something in. Once you hit save, you'll see that it actually um, got saved and now it's displaying in that field. Okay, so, and then just to sort of finish that topic, we are working on trying to update all of the correct office locations on campus. There are either some that are just completely missing, or there are some that are maybe like the building is mislabeled. So we are working as a campus to try to fix those issues. And then, so my next issues are the chart fields. So chart fields actually live at the bottom of each line item. So here's my line item, line number 1. You look at the bottom, here's the chart field. You would select the pencil. Business unit, you would select Fullerton campus. Fund code, I think most people are familiar with which chart fields they normally use when doing requisitions. So I will just use the THEFD fund and my department ID. Okay, another very important note. Earlier we said commodity codes should not be changed if the form populated it for you automatically. The same thing goes for account codes. Account codes should be left alone because they are essentially tied to the commodity codes. That's how we have decided to set them up. Um, the chart field, I mean the commodity codes and the account codes are a little tricky when you're doing a punch out. Some of them may not be correctly labeled, but at that point, contracts and procurement can help look into those commodity code and account codes for you. So just a rule of thumb again, commodity codes and account codes, it's best and it's our advice to leave them alone until it gets to procurement and we can help look at those for you. And then the rest of the chart fields, program, class, and project, if those are applicable for your purchase, you can include those.
Hey Alex, can you
So
show
once I
how to
hit, yeah,
split?
sure, yeah,
Just
that's a
useful
good
since
question.
you're already
So
on that step. Yeah.
yeah, if you do want to split your chart field, so we see this a lot when it's a higher dollar amount purchase and maybe you're splitting the cost with another department. So if you want to split the chart fields, you would be in that same page for the chart fields. There's a little plus sign over here that says add split. You would click that. It basically duplicates the first chart field string, and then you would just revise the second chart field string to whatever you need it to be. So maybe with this one, we are splitting it with accounts payable, and that is how you would split your funding for one order. Over here, there is a drop-down menu that says percent of price, percent of quantity, amount of price, and amount of quantity. We recommend either choosing amount of price or if you have quantities, amount of quantity. These percent of price and percent of quantity, you can run into some issues when the purchase order gets sent over to CFS via the automated process. So we do highly recommend that you use amount of price or amount of quantity. So, amount of price, essentially, if you have a $10,000 order and you want to split it evenly, you would just put 5,000 and 5,000. So that's how you would split your chart fields if you want to do that. If you want to remove that, you would just select remove chart field split, and then you're back to where you began or back to where you started.
Alex,
Oh,
sorry, I keep
yeah,
interrupting you. People are asking, I'm
no,
just
it's okay.
only gonna do this if people ask questions that I think are worth addressing
Yeah,
to the group.
yeah,
Um, Someone said that if they copy the chart field to other items in the cart, the commodity codes are overridden. Could you maybe just show that really quick so we
sure.
can, yeah, thank you.
I can show that on the next part of the demo, which
Yeah.
is yeah, that's going to be multi-line requisitions, and it's kind of coupled with multi-year requisitions as well. So I will show how you copy lines down on the additional lines, but also leave behind like the commodity code so that you don't accidentally copy it down.
And there was
Okay,
one other question.
yeah,
I know it's kind of not on topic, but I figured you might as well address it to the group. Someone asked about ad hoc. If it says ad hoc
yeah,
approver, what does that mean?
sure. So ad hoc approver, you probably saw it here under other participant information. So ad hoc approver, it means that basically you're adding an approver into the workflow that wouldn't normally be there. So normally in the workflow, it's always going to go to a DOA. After that, it's going to go into a compliance reviewer, and then ultimately procurement. So if you ad hoc an approver in there, and I can show this really quick. So maybe I want to um, ad hoc one. You can actually name your ad hoc. So I'm just going to say additional approver. Under here, under ad hoc approvers, you can select folks that have an approver role. So you can search by their name. You can hit this magnifying glass and search by other fields. So last name, first name, username, email. But essentially, you would just select whatever that additional ad hoc approver is. And then ultimately, so let me see if I can. So there's the person I want to add as an ad hoc approver. I would select them and I would select save changes. And up here where it says after step, essentially you're selecting at what point do I want this ad hoc approver to be involved. Do I want them to be after the DOA approval? Do I want them to be after the procurement review? So you're kind of selecting where in the workflow they are going to come in for the ad hoc approval. So that's how you use ad hoc approver. I don't think it's necessary to use it unless you've had an internal discussion with your department that ad hoc approvers should be used, because DOA approvers, compliance approvers, procurement, we've all done the legwork to, make the workflow what it is right now. So again, if you are going to add an ad hoc approver, I would suggest maybe having that conversation internally with your department first. But yeah, that is how you would add them. I'm not going to in this case, so I'm just going to hit close and not save my ad hoc. Okay, so that was ad hoc approval. I have one more issue with this requisition. It's saying that on the form I indicated blanket PO, but on the requisition, the amount only blanket order checkbox is not selected on the PO information. So that is located right here, and this is the second way to indicate that you are setting up a blanket PO. Earlier I said that there are two ways. The first way is on the goods and services form, where it says, is this a blanket order, yes or no? This is the second way. So if you are using any other kind of form and that question about a blanket order isn't present, but it still needs to be set up as a blanket order, so like the independent contractor form, for example, maybe it doesn't ask you if it is a blanket order, yes or no question. Over here on the requisition, you can go into PO information, check the amount only blanket PO box, hit save, and then that'll mark it as a blanket PO for you. Really quick, attachments is a tab at the top, and you can add an internal attachment. It's pretty easy. You can either hit browse or you can drag and drop from your computer, and then hit save, and your attachment will be attached. So that's where your for blanket orders, you typically don't have any quotes or proposals. Maybe you have like a cost sheet. But for all other orders, you would be uploading your quote that way or your proposal. or maybe there's a contract attached to the purchase, and that's where you would put your attachments. After that, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not going to hit submit, but if you are a requester, you can hit the submit requisition button. If you are a shopper, you would have to assign the cart at this point to your requester in your department.
Hey, Alex, sorry, one more thing.
Yeah,
Could you maybe specify the difference between internal and external notes?
sure. So internal notes, this is where we are asking departments to include any notes that you want procurement to see. So I know in CFS, it was header comments. So essentially, your header comments are the same as your internal notes and attachments. So that's like, who are the people in the department that procurement can contact? Maybe you have a specific sales rep that you're working with. That's where you can put their contact information. Really just any information that is helpful to provide to any individuals in the next workflow steps for this requisition. External notes and attachments are actually notes that show up on the purchase order for the supplier. So a lot of times that's actually where contracts and procurement is going to put the notes. So external notes and attachments is where contract and procurement is going to put any specific contracts or quotes that this order is tied to. Maybe we'll reiterate who the contacts in the department are. So that's really the key difference. Internal notes is internal to Cal State Fullerton. So all the users can see that, all the workflow approvers can see that. And then external notes is notes and messages that go to the supplier on the PO. That's the key difference between internal and external notes. Were there any other questions before I move on?
No, but there are a few people who asked about adding lines. I just said that you're going to cover that next. So
yeah, that is our next topic. We'll probably spend the last hour or so of this call going over additional lines and multi-year purchase orders. So yeah, that was about it. That's how you would go into selecting a form, setting up a blanket order, and then submitting your requisition for that blanket order. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to delete my cart because I don't want to mix it up with my next topic. All right, so that was submitting a blanket order. You have one line, it's pretty straightforward. So, but what about if you want to set up a multi-year or a multi-line requisition? So in order to do that, the way you would do that is sort of the same process. When you begin, it's, make sure your supplier is on board, make sure that they are active for FLXMP business unit. And then you would go to view carts, create cart, fill out the same, cart name, whatever helps you keep track of things. So cart name, maybe it's a multi-year contract, whatever helps you keep track of it. So deliver to location. Again, you would put in your deliver to location. I like to use my front desk area. Click here to start shopping. So again, try to use the most appropriate form for the type of purchase you're making. So if you were, renewing a software or buying some IT hardware, you would go into the IT electronics. If you're having some type of hospitality event, catering, maybe you're hosting a group of people, you would want to go into the hospitality form. So again, these forms are meant to match the type of purchase that you're trying to make. I will continue to use the goods and services form under general, just because it is the shortest form, and for the sake of saving some time, I like to use this form in my demos. So again, reading the instructions, what type of purchase am I trying to make? If I'm in the right spot, it'll tell me. If I'm not in the right spot, it'll instruct me where I can find the correct form. I'll hit next. Supplier. I'm going to try to use the same supplier. So 20, they've been selected. Here they are for FLXMP. Just really quick, if you search for a supplier and you're not getting any results, again, that's most likely because your supplier is not approved and or your supplier is not approved for FLXMP. So again, it's really important to try to do that research before you get to this step. Okay, so hit next. What types of goods or services are you requesting? So let's see. I'm going to say transportation charters. So maybe I'm going to set up, a multi-year contract for transportation charters. Is this a blanket order? Technically, it could be if you actually have a schedule of how much you're going to spend each year for this multi-year order, then it wouldn't be a blanket order. So let me just clarify that distinction for blanket orders and service orders. Blanket orders, essentially what that means is that you were setting aside some funds. You don't know how much of those funds you're actually going to use up. So if you set aside $15,000, but you may use only $2,000, you may only use $10,000, that would be a blanket order. You don't really know at the end of the day, at the end of the fiscal year, how much spend is going to go against that PO. For service orders, there typically is a schedule that we follow so that you do know what you're going to spend. So, an example would be the proposal said it's for $12,000, $1,000 each month. That's not a blanket order because we know every single month we will receive a new invoice for $1,000 until we reach the 12th month and pay the $12,000, the final $1,000 of those 12 months. So that's the key difference between selecting a blanket order and between saying yes or no to a blanket order question. So in this case, I'm going to say no. Is this request for a renewal of a previous purchase? Again, if you say yes, it'll ask you for a PO number. If you say no, that question remains as no. Does the request include performance terms and start and end dates? So we're talking multi-year purchase orders here or requisitions. You can either put in all 3 years on these performance start dates and end dates, or you could take it year by year because we are going to set up one line for each year of the contract. So I'll set this requisition up as a 3-year contract. And so I'm going to end up with 3 lines on my requisition. So I'm actually going to do, let's see, I'll just say 2026 to 2027 is 1 year. Oh, I'm sorry. 2026 is 1 year. That's year 1. Again, we're recommending that you leave the sole source, sole brand question as no. So I will hit next. Okay, so again, this is in your own words, so I'll just say multi-year order for transportation services. If you hit next, you end up on the cost details. Again, do you have documentation to attach? If you say yes, it's reminding you to attach it as an internal attachment on the requisition. Okay, so keep in mind, we're doing a multi-year request, and so each line is going to be 1 year of that request. And so for multi-year orders, the direction is to encumber all the funds for all 3 years on the requisition. So in this case, maybe the total contract cost is $150,000. In this case, line 1 would be $50,000, line 2 would be $50,000, and line 3 would be $50,000. So these next steps that I'm going to get into is how do you get multiple lines on your requisition for the funds that you need to encumber. So this is line one, $50,000, quantity one, spot. Here again, product description, you want to be descriptive, but I'm just going to say year one of three. Okay. Here's a good example. Earlier, my commodity code was not selected because I selected goods other. But in this case, on the general information page, I selected bus charter services, and so it already gave me a commodity code. So this was the example I was talking about earlier. Don't change your commodity codes. So I think some people would be tempted maybe to override this later to like general services. Don't do that. If you are paying for bus charter services, it's best to just leave it alone. So that's just a little piece of advice. Once you fill out that information, you would hit next. Okay, this is the big detail that I want everybody to sort of hone in on. So earlier we selected add and go to cart, and that added the funds to our cart. It made line one in our cart. Right now we're talking about a multi-year, multi-line requisition. So how do you get year two and year three into your cart so that it shows up in your requisition? What you do is you hit this drop down button, and there is a button that says save to cart and add another. So essentially what that is doing is it is taking your form, adding line one into your cart for $50,000, and then you'll see that we remain on the form, and so we just need to update a couple of details for line two. So what that looks like is once I click save to cart and add another, there's $50,000 in my cart now. And you can see that the form is unchanged. It's still 1220. It's still transportation charter services. This is a detail that I should change because now I'm working on line two. So this can be 1/1/2027, and this can be 12/31/27. So that's going to be for the second year of this contract. I can hit next. I can leave that alone. That saved it from line one, so I'm okay with that. Okay, earlier it was $50,000 for line one. We named it year one of three. So this is year two of three. All right, so I'm just changing a couple of details. I didn't have to fill out the whole form in its entirety again. So once I've updated the form with those year two details, I'm on this page again. If I hit the drop down, again, this is going to be for a 3-year, multi-year contract. I would select save to cart and add another. Now my cart is displaying $100,000. If I open that, it's got 2 lines for $50,000 each. That is because one line is year one line is year two. So this is a 3-year contract. My supplier is still selected. My form fields are still filled out, but I still need to update this. So next, I'm okay with that description. $50,000, year 3. So this is the last line on my rec, year 3 of 3. Once I hit next, now I can select add and go to cart because I'm done putting in the line items for my requisition. So if I select add and go to cart, I am essentially on this shopping cart summary page. And we can see here, year 1 of 3, $50,000, line 1. Year 2 of 3, $50,000, year 2. And year 3 of 3, $50,000, line 3. So that is how you do multi-line requisitions, but I also coupled it with how do you do multi-year requisitions. So for those multi-year requisitions where maybe you have a contract established that this is how much you're going to pay the supplier over the course of 3 years, you would be submitting your requisition like this, where it's multiple lines and it's the full dollar amount that we owe the supplier for each year. Little caveat. So for multi-year requisitions, you will be submitting it this way, where it's the dollar amount on each year. However, depending on the contract that was executed, if we are not paying the supplier upfront for all 3 years, maybe we're paying them each year. What procurement is going to do after you submit your requisition is contracts and procurement, we will reduce the second line and the third line down to a penny, and we will only pay for year one. Once year two rolls around, you will go back into your requisition, create a change request, and bump the dollar amount from a penny back to the original $50,000. I know that sounds kind of redundant, or why are we doing this? The reason we want to do this is because when you submit your requisition for a multi-year order, we want to ensure that the proper DOA approvals are being routed. So DOAs are basically based on levels. So if you encumber all of the years for your contracted amount, that ensures that the correct level of DOA is approving the expenditure of those funds. So that is why we are asking you to set up your multi-year requisitions this way. Okay, so from this page, once we hit proceed to checkout, again, we end up on this requisition page. You would update your ship to, your bill to, put in your chart field. So actually, this was the question that we asked earlier, or it was asked earlier. How do I copy down, or how do I avoid copying a chart field that I don't want to copy down to the other lines? So if you put in your chart fields for line one, fund code, EHEFT, chart ID, save. All right. So I put in my chart fields for line one. You can see them here. There's this button that says copy line one chart field to other lines. So this is actually meant to sort of help save time. If you have the same chart field across all lines, you can copy them down. If you click that button, there are these check marks for the line one chart fields. What these check marks do is they tell the system which chart field do you want to copy down to the other lines. So if somebody asked, how do I avoid copying my commodity code? You would just uncheck the commodity code box. So now on my screen, I am telling the system, copy the business unit, copy the fund, copy the department ID, the program, class, and project number, but do not copy the commodity account and account override. In fact, we recommend that when you do this, you always uncheck commodity, account, and account override. You don't want to copy those items down. One, because commodity code will already be there, so you don't want to override a commodity code. So again, just the best instruction that we can give is when you are using this copy button, uncheck commodity, account, and account override. And so once you've identified which chart fields you do want to copy, you can either select this box to copy all the lines, or you can copy individual lines. So maybe line 2 is the same as line 1, but line 3 is going to be different. I want to copy it down to all of my lines. So I'll hit copy. And so there you go. Line 2 has been copied for the chart fields, and line 3 is also copied down for the chart fields. Again, don't forget your attachments. You want to go into attachments, add an internal attachment, upload maybe a copy of the contract or the invoice from the supplier for year 1. Again, internal notes are internal to the campus, so any user will be able to read those. External notes are notes to the suppliers, as it states right here, note to suppliers. And that's pretty much it for multi-year, multi-line requisitions. Again, I'm not going to hit submit because I don't want this to actually go into the workflow. And then, yes, another reminder, if you are a shopper, you will only have the ability to assign your cart to a requester. If you are a requester, you will have the ability to submit the requisition into the workflow at that time. So let's see. Any questions, Lauren? Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
Go ahead, KJ.
Oh yeah. Someone just asked, can you show how to edit those lines?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So let's see. So maybe I don't know. Maybe there was a little mistake. You said year 1 of 3. It should have said, year 2 of 3. If you want to edit a line, you actually go back into the form. The form is linked on each line item. So if I want to edit line 1, the form is here. If I want to edit line 2, the form is here, and so on and so forth. Year 3, line 3, the form is here. So maybe I wanted to, maybe year 3, it wasn't $50,000. Maybe year 1 is 50, year 2 is 50, but let's say year 3 is actually a different dollar amount. How do I edit that? You would go into the form, and then you would go find the field that section is in that you want to change. So cost details has the dollar amounts. So, maybe year 3 is actually only $20,000. It got cheaper as we went on. So year 3 needs to be reduced. It wasn't actually 50,000. You would hit save progress. There's this button at the top left that says back to requisition. And now if you go into your requisition, year 1 is $50,000. Year 2 is $50,000. And now year 3 has been updated to be $20,000 instead of 50. So that is how you go back into the form and edit line item details. It would be the same for descriptions. Maybe you found a typo, or maybe you need to provide a little more descriptive wording in your item description. Go back into the form, find the field that you want to update, and then you can say year 3 of 3, final year. You would hit save, back to requisition, and then when you go down, you'll see that your change was saved to your requisition. Any other questions? Okay, cool. So that was multi-year, multi-line requisitions. I believe I have about 30-ish minutes left. Let's see. I can get into change requests, because I did mention that with multi-year requisitions where lines 2 and 3 or future year orders, future year lines will be reduced to a penny, and then you have to go in via change request to bump it back up. But this is true of any requisitions or any purchase order that maybe you need to do a change order for. Maybe you need to increase your blanket, or you need to add a line to a PO, or maybe just order more items than what was originally planned. So how do you do that?
Oh, Alex, sorry. One thing
yeah.
before you move on. I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but can you talk about accounting date?
Oh, yeah, very important. On any requisition that you're doing, there is a field that says accounting date. Please leave the accounting date blank. We are running into some issues where if you put in an accounting date and we switch over to a new month and the accounting period closed for the previous month, when we go to approve this, the system doesn't like that it's in a closed period, and it will return your requisition all the way to the beginning, and you have to resubmit it. So to avoid that issue and just to avoid double work, leave your accounting dates blank. I think from CFS, we were accustomed to including an accounting date, but in P2P now, we don't need an accounting date. That's handled at the time of vouchering and invoicing, as well as getting that date from the voucher gets sent into CFS. So long story short, keep your accounting date blank on all of your requisitions. So thanks for the reminder. Okay, so let's see. I will go over change requests. So just a little backstory on change requests and how that process has changed from CFS to P2P. So in CFS, we were accustomed to creating a whole separate requisition for your change order, and you would be, descriptive in your requisition saying, increase line 1 by $5,000, or change the chart fields from this chart field string to this new chart field string. In P2P, the PO owner gets basically the ability to go into the purchase order and make all the changes that they need changed and submit that back into the workflow. So if I'm a PO owner, I find my PO, I make all the changes, I hit submit, it may go back to your DOA, it may go back to an IT or a facilities compliance review or whatever compliance review was there before. And then it gets to procurement and we finalize those changes for you, and the new change order PO goes out to the supplier. So that's the key difference. Before it was just a separate requisition. Now as a PO owner, you were going in and making the changes yourself. So let me explain a little more about what a PO owner is. A PO owner is essentially the person that is identified on the requisition that will be responsible for doing those change requests and for approving vouchers to verify that the goods or services were received. The PO owner can actually be anybody in P2P with a login. So at that point, the PO owner, it doesn't really matter if you are a shopper, you are a requester, an approver. As long as you're able to log in and you were identified as the PO owner on the requisition, you will have the ability to verify receipt of the goods or services and do these change requests. I'm actually still on a requisition page. So before you submit your requisition, you can identify the prepared for person here. And what that does is it makes them the PO owner. You can see here on this requisition, I'm the prepared by and the prepared for person. It defaults to the person who is submitting the requisition. But maybe you have identified a PO owner and you want to make them the PO owner. You would click the pencil. Under prepared for, you can click the magnifying glass and search for that person via their name or email address, whatever you find easier. And you can hit the plus sign, hit save, and now they are the PO owner. So by me changing it to Alex Rosales, if this was a real order and the PO gets created, Alex can actually go into the PO, make all the changes that he needs updated on the PO, and submit those changes. If you are not the PO owner, the only ability you have for change requests is that you would be sending a comment to someone for your change request. So it's very important to identify the PO owner. Again, that is an internal conversation with your departments, how you want to set up PO owners. Should it just always be the requester? Should it be, the project managers for those specific orders? So those are internal conversations that should be had when it comes to setting up requisitions for your departments. So I still have a few minutes. I'm actually going to go into a PO and see if I can change one. I don't know if I'll be able to because I'm a buyer, so I'm not actually a PO owner. but let me see if I can try. So what you would do is go to your orders. Under my orders, those are orders that belong to you. So they are orders that you submitted into the workflow. So if you ever go into my orders and you go into my requisitions, my POs, my vouchers, and you're not finding something, it is because that order is not yours. It's because somebody else submitted that requisition. So I just want to clarify that. Alternatively, you can go into search purchase orders, and this actually shows all the purchase orders for Cal State Fullerton. So there's a lot of transparency into P2P. Here we can see orders that all departments have submitted, all the POs that have been created for all departments. So the easiest thing to do here is if you know your PO number, you can type it in, or if you want to narrow it down by supplier, you can do that in the quick filters, or you can also type in the supplier name to sort of narrow down that search. Let me see if I can try to get into a PO. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up the test site. It looks very similar to the production site with the exception that it's blue instead of black on the flyout. So what I was saying earlier, if you go to my orders, my purchase orders, these are all POs that I am a owner of. So that means I can actually go into the PO and start changing it. So I would select my PO. Under the ellipsis, you would select, let me see, change request. Sorry, I think you would go into the change request tab. Man, it looks like it's not letting me.
Yeah, I don't think you're able to do it.
Maybe because it's pending.
Maybe you could just click on one and kind of show them.
Yeah, it's because that one had a pending change request. So this one doesn't have any change request pending. So I'm actually able to go in the ellipsis. You can hit create change request. So what this does is it makes you put in a reason why you are creating the change request. So maybe I'm just going to say increase PO amount. Again, you want to be descriptive. Why are you changing it? But I'm just going to say increase PO amount. Once I hit create change request, what it does is the change request is basically a duplicate of the purchase order. And so as the PO owner on the change request, I can go in and start changing things. So let's see, maybe the attention needs to be changed. Maybe it shouldn't be me, maybe it should be Alex Rosales. I'll hit save. That's really cool. It highlights blue what I'm changing along the way. So I updated Alex. We said that we needed to increase the purchase order. So here's $25,000. Earlier on that multi-line, multi-year requisition, we went over how do I increase the dollar amount or change the description. You go back into the form. You find the field that you want to change. So under cost details, maybe I'm increasing this by $10,000. So my new dollar amount is $35,000. I hit save on change request, back to change request, and there you go. It's highlighting that this dollar amount has changed. Down here, it's also highlighted that $35,000 is a new amount. And that's true for anything that you're changing. Maybe I want to actually change the performance dates. Again, that's on the field. That's on the form. You would find it on the form. And so let's see, maybe I wanted this to start a month later. Save, back to change request. Oh, that one didn't highlight. But if I change the accounting fields, it would also highlight. So let me see if I can find one. I'll just choose a random one. So there you go. It's also saying that I changed the fund code. What's really neat about P2P is that we have this history tab, and this actually also keeps track of your changes. So it said that I put in a comment to increase the PO amount. It's saying that I changed the shipping address from Alex Arias and then the shipping address to Alex Rosales and then the shipping address. I changed $25,000 to $35,000, and I changed the fund code from THEFD to DC340. So that's really neat. On the history tab, it also keeps track of all the changes that anybody's made in P2P on that particular document. So once you have made your changes, you can hit submit request in the top right, and your change request is sent off. So if I go into my change request number, I can see, just like in a requisition, the workflow. Maybe it went back to a DOA because you increased the dollar amount. Maybe it went back to the compliance folks as well, and then you can see that it's also going to go to procurement for their final review of the change. So that is how you would do a change request. Again, keep in mind, you have to be the PO owner in order to do what I just did. If you are not the PO owner, what happens is you are just sending a comment saying this PO needs to be increased. If you need to change the PO owner, you can reach out to procurement. The buyer role is the only role that has the ability to change PO owners after a PO has been created. So maybe you forgot to identify the PO owner and you reach out to us and say, hey, this should actually be the project manager so-and-so. We can update that for you. Or maybe you did identify that person, but later on you said you guys decided, no, it should just be the requester. Can you make me the PO owner? Only the buyers can update that PO owner for you after a PO has been created. So keep that in mind if you ever do need changes to the PO owner. We can help you with that. And that's pretty much it for change requests. I know that's a brand new sort of way to do things. But again, we have those one-on-one trainings. If you guys need help, feel free to schedule those one-on-ones. I'll continue to plug those. They've been really helpful for a lot of people. So feel free to sign up. What you were saying something, Lauren?
Oh yeah, I was gonna approve it, but it got returned because of the chart field you
The
selected.
account. Yeah, the chart field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say if you want,
I figured.
you can change it and I can approve it just to show them kind of what it looks like. We still have some time,
Sure. I'll
so.
see if it draft returns. So let me go in.
So what happened
I'm just
was
going to set it back.
he changed the fund code and it created a combo edit in his
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, because I chose like a facilities and construction fund code. So let me submit it again. Back here. And so now, Lauren, we can see that it's going to procurement review. And so Lauren will be able to approve the change request once procurement has reviewed it and, verified that this change request can happen. So.
Yeah, and one other note too is in the test site, the DOA is turned off so we can test stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially what would happen since you increased it, it's going to go to a DOA approval first.
Right. Yep. And you can always check where your requisition is going to go by going into the workflow. This is the same for any type of document: requisitions, vouchers, receipts, POs. You can always check the workflow for those documents and see where your document is going to be routed for approvals. see. So it looks like it's still in procurement review. Lauren is currently looking at it and he's going to approve it.
Does it show that I'm looking at it?
It might
It
if you've
does.
assigned it to yourself.
Let me see.
Let's see. So while Lauren is working on that, I also want to show this part. It says related documents. So on any document in P2P, related documents links you to any documents that are related to one another. So if I'm looking at a requisition and a PO has been created, it would say purchase order. If I'm looking at the purchase order, it would link me back to the requisition. If I'm looking at a PO that has vouchers against it, it will link you to those vouchers. So related documents are very helpful when it comes to finding, the requisition that it came from, or vouchers that have been paid against that purchase order. So always keep that in mind if you are looking for any details or maybe payment details. Try to find if there are any vouchers linked to your PO. That could probably help answer your question very quickly. Um,
So
let's
I
see.
haven't approved it
Oh,
because it's by
yeah,
commodity code.
it's
Yeah.
somebody else.
I'm gonna see if you
But
can
that's
do it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how change requests work now in P2P. Lauren, are there any questions in the chat or the Q&A regarding
There,
change requests?
nope, there's been no new questions since you started talking about change request actually.
Okay, cool. We're slightly ahead of time, so if anybody has any questions, um, feel free to ask. We're here to help. So
Okay, we got one. I'll just
yeah,
read it out since we're just kind of doing
sure.
questions now. So it was for guest speakers, independent contractors, how far in advance does the guest speaker or independent contractor need to be set up in P2P? I've had encounters with faculty not notifying administrative staff of a guest speaker, independent contractor coming in until the weekend before the speaking engagement. A time frame would be helpful.
Um, Truthfully, it's hard to always to nail down a time frame. But obviously, a week, 2 weeks, I would say at least 2 weeks before the speaking engagement is a good starting point. Because as I mentioned earlier, your guest speaker or really any supplier, they need to be approved in P2P before a purchase order or a requisition can be issued or submitted. The reason I say 2 weeks is because the invitation gets sent out and the supplier actually is responsible for filling out their profile. Um, Internally to our campus and the CO, the supplier reviews are going very quickly. They're taking between 2 and 3 days. However, it only takes as long as it takes the supplier to create their profile and submit all of the information we need. So if you send something out to a guest speaker, they don't open their email, maybe it went into their spam, or maybe they started on their profile but they never finished it. Any number of things can happen, and so that's sort of out of our control. We can't tell the suppliers, how to run their daily duties. So all we can do really is maybe give them a call, follow up, ask them to please, submit their profiles in a timely manner. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I needed to give you a date or a time frame, probably 2 weeks at least before the speaking engagement.
Um, so Stella asked about invoicing, and Brenda responded, but
hmm
I'll also mention here. So there's no one. I don't think that's something we're gonna really touch on today. But we will be talking about that in later weeks.
Yeah. Next week is approvers. And then the week after that, we do get into payments and invoicing. So let's see, week 4, there should be somebody from AP guiding users on sort of how the payment um, structure in P2P works now. So
There was one other card, and it kind of brings up a topic that I think is just good to cover in every training we do because we get a lot of questions about it, about the P
yeah.
card. Can we use P card to pay job posting advertisements, or must we go through P2P to start a requisition process? So,
Um, so yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
um, that's kind of an individual question. We do have a procurement matrix on our website that gives you general guidance on like when you would use your P card or when you would use a requisition. Um, and again, it's kind of a general guideline. I can just answer it, Alex, if you want, or do you want
Okay.
to? Okay. Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
uh, so we look at them as two separate tools that you can still use. So the P card's not going away. It's still available in the same capacity that it has been. We're encouraging people to do things through this new system if possible. Um, but obviously there are scenarios when you would want to use a P card. There are two tools that are available to you. So the P card is ideal for like low value, low risk purchases, um, and generally not used for services. But people have asked things like, "Hey, I want to buy pizza from Costco. Do I have to do a PO?" Well, no, of course you're not going to do a PO to Costco for pizza. So it's a situational thing. There's not really a black and white answer for that. But if they can go through this process through CSU Buy, we're going to encourage them to do that and encourage you to use this because you'll see there's a lot of added value to doing it this way and less work on the back end for you. But generally, about the P card, it's still available. It's still existing in the same capacity that it has always been. Um, Specifically to your question, Stella, I don't believe we would do job posting advertisements on the P card. That's a service, and it also involves a software review if we're posting online. So, yeah, you probably need to put a requisition in for that.
Mm. Um,
And Alex and Lauren,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could talk about vouchers really quick if anybody
Oh,
wants to
cool.
stick around just like for 5 minutes, just to like really brief overview.
Yeah, we got 12 minutes left, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So there's a few ways for, and it is okay if I share my screen, Alex?
Definitely. Yeah. Let me get out of here.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so here's my screen, and then really quick before I get into it. Um, so invoices or vouchers can get in the system a few different ways. They'll come in either electronically through the punch-out suppliers, or the supplier can go onto P2P. Each supplier has their own supplier portal where they can add their invoices directly onto the order, or they can email the invoices to accounts payable at payables@fullerton.edu. If you have vendors that are sending them directly to you, then it would be up to you to go ahead and send your invoice to accounts payable so we can attach that to the sales order. So the thing that we ask is that make sure that the PO is listed on your invoice so that we can find the purchase order. So here where I'm at is in a voucher search. Anyone can find this. So here in the home, if you go to right here, this little oops, sorry, the one with the paper and the clock. If you go to that one, and then you go to vouchers here, you can search all the vouchers. So this is anyone can see this, and you can see what we're looking at is folks have already been putting in their staples and Amazon supplies. You can see the voucher is pending, and then for these punch outs, they've actually sent in their voucher, their invoice through electronically. And so when they send in an invoice, then the system creates a voucher. So the difference between a voucher and an invoice is the invoice is the request to pay. The voucher is the document that says we are going to pay. So if we go into like this particular stables order, uh, the it came in electronically, and then the system automatically sent it to the PO owner. So this one, it's getting automatically sent to the PO owner for them to whenever they get their supplies, they can go in here, verify that they received it. Once that happens, um, if the items qualify for an AP review, they will. Most of the punch outs won't, but sometimes they will, depending on what kind of item it is. If there are any exceptions, it would need to go clear that. You could see this one is already being sorted out to go to Rachel based on the letter. And then if there are any match exceptions, this might have to stop by our team. But essentially, most of the time they'll go to this finish step, and let me show you one where that's payable. So you can see these are in process. These are waiting to get approved. And then if I uh, check the payable status, now this is showing me this is everything that's been approved in the system. So accounts payable is kind of monitoring this. Some of these have actually already paid, but we've put in a ticket with the CEO to make sure that our systems are talking because some of these we paid, but they're not showing the payment information yet. Um, they will soon though. So if we take a look at these ones that have been approved, essentially when they are in this payable status right here, um, that means that this pay status is payable. That means accounts payable can pay it. And when we do pay it, this payment information is going to fill up. So we've got a ticket to make sure that this information gets filled in so that anyone can come into the system, take a look at, was it paid? How did we pay it? What's the payment reference ID, either a check number or an ACH ID number, and the amount that we paid. And then so if you're sending it to payables at fruition.edu, what we're going to do is find the PO that's listed on the invoice, or if one is not, we'll do our best to find it and match it. Sometimes that might require us to contact the supplier, or if your name's on it, we'll contact you and kind of like, hey, is this the right one? Or we'll try to match it by the dollar amounts if one's not listed. But if you can make sure that if you're receiving it in the office, then make sure that you put in the PO number and send it to us as soon as you can. I don't recommend you receiving the invoice right away because as you can see, once the PO is vouchered against, it's going to send to you for approval. I know people have been saying they really like to receive the invoice first, but actually that's a delayed step. If you have the vendor send it to us directly, we'll match it. And then immediately, once it's matched, it goes back to the PO owner. And then that's when you'll have it in hand if you need to, whatever you need to do with it before you approve it. That's probably when you want to take those kinds of steps. So that's a really quick, brief overview of invoices and vouchers.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
No other questions. So, I guess we can just hang out for 5 more minutes, and if anyone has any other questions, we will be here. Unless you guys want to end it early.